What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. In today's episode, Nick is going to be giving his final mock draft for the 2021 NFL Draft. We're going to go through each pick, and then I'm going to break down where I believe that he is right and where he's wrong. All that and much more coming your way right now! If you guys are planning on watching the NFL Draft this Thursday, you're going to want to check us, Nick and I, on Colorcast, a totally new social audio app for sports fans. We'll be live on Colorcast during the entire first round of the draft, giving our hot takes, talking about the teams, the players, the pick, jockeying, and everything in between. What's really cool is that you guys can weigh in too. If you download the app, you can text chat with us and ask us any burning questions you might have. Yes, really, ask away. Spend draft night with us on the Colorcast app this Thursday, April 29th. It's going to be a blast. All right, Nick. Well, we are just a few days away. I'm so excited this week. This is draft week. We are here. We have made it. We have made it through the cold off season to finally get here. And as I just told the Trash Talkers, we are going to be live casting this on Colorcast app, and I'm really excited for that. But why don't you get us started with your final mock draft?
Yeah, I took this privilege to go through each pick, make sure I knew each need for each team and found the right fit for each team, not just taking the best available, making sure that everybody's getting somebody that's going to be of value to them. So let's get right into it. And starting it off with the first pick, we have Trevor Lawrence to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Zach Wilson to the New York Jets, Trey Lance to the San Francisco 49ers, Kyle Pitts to the Atlanta Falcons, and Jamar Chase to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, so taking a look here, I'm looking at obviously number 3. Trey Lance is the biggest question here. A lot of reports show that it's really down to Mac Jones and Trey Lance with the San Francisco 49ers. Personally, I believe they would probably go Mac Jones just based on what Kyle Shanahan has done in the past. If you take a look at the quarterbacks that he has had success with, you look at Matt Ryan, you look at Kirk Cousins, you look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Mac Jones kind of fits that mold. I think Trey Lance is a bit different from those guys. I don't think he's going to fit that scheme as much, but Trey Lance, Mac Jones, it's a 50-50 split, and I don't disagree with the choice here.
Yeah, Trey Lance and Mac Jones, that's definitely who it came down to. The reports came out today that it's down to those guys pretty much. Justin Fields is not in the conversation anymore. But I think that Trey Lance has been absolutely blowing away these guys, general managers, head coaches, with every single talk. And now we hear reports that Kyle Shanahan is even talking to Trey Lance's parents. I mean, if you're getting that deep and personal, I think that you're leaning towards that guy, and that's why I went Trey Lance in this pick.
Yeah, I'll also make a note here. Kyle Pitts makes a lot of sense for the Atlanta Falcons. A lot of people talk about how the Falcons haven't utilized a top end tight end recently, but I'll show you Arthur Smith, who did a great job in Tennessee working with Jonnu Smith. Now you bring in Kyle Pitts, and I think that is going to be a very flourishing relationship the two of them have, on top of the fact that the Falcons are recently shopping Julio Jones and most likely are looking to trade him at this point. Kyle Pitts is going to step into that role of really taking the top off the defense, working with Calvin Ridley and the wide receiving core that these guys have. I think the Atlanta Falcons taking Kyle Pitts at 4 makes a lot of sense.
At number 6, we have the Miami Dolphins taking Penei Sewell. At number 7, the New England Patriots are trading up with the Detroit Lions to draft Justin Fields. At 8, the Carolina Panthers are taking Micah Parsons. At number 9, the Denver Broncos are taking Mac Jones. And at number 10, the Cowboys are taking Patrick Surtain II.
Yeah, so starting off with the Miami Dolphins, I think it's interesting that you have them getting Penei Sewell, possibly going receiver, especially with some of the bigger names still on the board. Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, some of the guys that Tua Tagovailoa has actually played with and worked well with before. I love the fact that the Patriots trade up and grab Justin Fields here. Micah Parsons to the Carolina Panthers just makes too much sense to me. Just because they need to replace that Luke Kuechly sized hole in the middle of their defense, and at this point, Micah Parsons is the only one with the shoes to get it done. Mac Jones going to the Denver Broncos is interesting because personally, I do not believe that the Denver Broncos are ready to move off of Drew Lock just yet. And getting Mac Jones here, it definitely shows me that you believe otherwise. And then obviously with Patrick Surtain, I think this is a lock at number 10. He's the first corner off the board, and the Dallas Cowboys get their guy opposite Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah, I'll start off with the New England Patriots. I think they're trading up somewhere in the back end of the top 10, and I think the Detroit Lions are exactly where it has to happen. The Carolina Panthers are the only other option, but you don't want the Washington football team or the Chicago Bears to swoop in at number 7 and take the guy right in front of you, so they've got to move up to 7 and grab their guy there. For Mac Jones, I think that they want to go in another direction. I think that they have not had success with their hybrid quarterbacks in the recent history. And I think they want a guy more of John Elway stature, a guy who has had success in that franchise. And I think that Mac Jones can become the next John Elway. I'm not saying he can reach those heights. I'm just saying he has the attitude, he has the leadership, he has the brains, he has what it takes to be an elite quarterback. And I think him being in that culture is exactly where John Elway wants him to be. So I think it's definitely one of the stretch picks I have, but I think it's definitely an option for the Denver Broncos. At number 11, we have Jalen Waddle to the New York Giants. At number 12, we have Devonta Smith to the Philadelphia Eagles. At 13, Rashawn Slater to the Los Angeles Chargers. At number 14, Christian Darrisaw to the Minnesota Vikings. And rounding it out at 15, JC Horn to the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, this is interesting to me. Jalen Waddle going at number 11 instead of an edge rusher kind of screams out to me. I'm just wondering what your thought process was here, and I know you'll get to it in a sec, especially with Kenny Galladay and John Ross added to Sterling Shepard and the wide receivers that they have here. I really believe that Jalen Waddle is entering a really deep wide receiver room when Queedy Pay's still on the board, Greg Rousseau's still on the board. Some of these guys that are supposed to be, great edge rushers still on the board, and the Giants have a need at edge rusher. Devonta Smith makes a ton of sense with the Eagles. Go back with Jalen Hurts. Rashawn Slater and Christian Darrisaw both make a ton of sense here. I like that a lot. And JC Horn is interesting to me because previously we thought that maybe Caleb Farley was the better corner. We have JC Horn now going ahead of Caleb Farley. On top of that, going to Detroit, who traded back with New England. And now he's paired up with Jeff Okudah, who they drafted just a couple years ago. It'll be very interesting to see. But at this point, I like the cornerback duo that they're building.
Yeah, Jalen Waddle to me is a good fit for the Giants, but I more so bought into the fact they're going wide receiver because the hype has been there. Everybody is saying it is wide receiver and nothing else. I think defensive end is a huge need for the Giants, but there has been no word from them at all that they are looking in this direction, and they have been everybody is now saying Jalen Waddle is their guy. So I'm buying into the hype in more so for this pick. It's not something I would do as a general manager, but I believe that this is what they're looking to do. And then for JC Horn for the Detroit Lions, there's so many holes on this team, but one thing that cannot be overlooked is a strong secondary. And you got Jeff Okudah last year with the number 2 overall pick. Now you're going to double down and go get JC Horn, so that way Jeff Okudah can have a guy he can rely upon opposite him on the field. That way this tandem can work together for the foreseeable future while this team goes through a rebuild. At 16, Christian Barmore to the Arizona Cardinals, Caleb Farley to the Las Vegas Raiders, Queedy Pay to the Miami Dolphins, Elijah Vera Tucker to the Washington Football Team, and Rashad Bateman to the Chicago Bears.
I like Christian Barmore to the Arizona Cardinals. I think it would solidify their defensive line, especially with so much effort and capital put into upgrading that line. You have JJ Watt, you have Chandler Jones. Get that big guy in the middle. Christian Barmore did an incredible job at the University of Alabama. I love what he can do for this Arizona Cardinals team. Caleb Farley dropped just a little bit. He's still arguably one of the fastest and strongest corners that the NFL draft has to offer. I mean, prior to the injury news coming out, we thought that he was vying with Patrick Surtain as the number one corner in this draft. And then some news about a back injury surfaced, and all of a sudden everybody's scared to touch him. Well, if there's a team that's willing to touch him, it's definitely the Las Vegas Raiders, and they love speed. If I know anything about Mark Davis, he follows in his father's shoes, Al Davis, and Al Davis built his teams on speed. So Caleb Farley makes a ton of sense here. Kwity Paye falling to 18 is absolutely incredible to me. Looking at the Miami Dolphins, they lucked out here because they get an all-around talent. He can play the edge. He can play inside on passing downs. He can do it all. Brian Flores is going to love having Kwity Paye in that defensive line room. Elijah Vera Tucker fills a huge need for the Washington football team. He can kick in at guard. He can play tackle. He can do literally anything you want him to do. I love what his versatility can bring to an offensive line. And at this point, it's going to be very interesting where Washington chooses to go after this. And then Rashad Bateman makes a ton of sense for Chicago. You brought in Andy Dalton as your starting quarterback. You brought back Allen Robinson. Now you need a big receiver that's going to be able to go up and catch those 50-50 balls. Allen Robinson does a lot of dirty work over the middle. You need a guy who can do a lot of sideline work, and I think Rashad Bateman's going to be able to help out with Chicago Bears.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head with Caleb Farley. That was exactly my thinking. Is they love their speed, and they need to bolster the secondary, which was so porous last season. They need to make sure that they go double down again, just like I have the Detroit Lions doing. I think that you got Damon Arnett last year. Now you got to get Caleb Farley, a guy who has been slipping because a lot of people are scared of his injury history. Definitely Mike Mayock is the one to take a risk on a guy like him and his talent level. And Rashad Bateman, to me, he is atop the second tier of wide receivers, and he is the first to go out of this group. He is number 4 out of all the wide receivers, and I think he could possibly be the next Allen Robinson. With his height and his crazy athleticism and speed, he's going to be a massive threat, and he'll have a perfect veteran to learn from in Allen Robinson. So I think this is a perfect fit for him in the Chicago Bears. At number 21, Azeez Ojulari to the Indianapolis Colts, Greg Newsome II to the Tennessee Titans, Jalen Phillips to the New York Jets, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Trayvon Merrick to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, taking a look at Azeez Ojulari, I think this is a really good pick for the Indianapolis Colts. Justin Houston remains a free agent. Doesn't look like they're going to be bringing him back anytime soon. At this point, Azeez Ojulari is going to be a speedster on the edge that's going to really help this defense get back to where they were last year. I like the pick a lot. Greg Newsome II fills a major hole for the Tennessee Titans because they lost everybody in the secondary, apparently. They got to start rebuilding that secondary, and the Tennessee Titans are going through a mini rebuild at this point. Whether you like it or not, that's just exactly where they are. A lot of players left in free agency, and they have many holes that they were not able to address. Greg Newsome is going to be the first puzzle piece to get that done. Jalen Phillips is an interesting one because the edge rusher out of Miami came into college football as the number 1 high school recruit at the edge position, and different injuries and off-field issues definitely came up to bite him in the butt. And he ended up at the University of Miami. He got some starting time. He was opposite Greg Rousseau, really balled out, showed up exactly why he was the number 1 high school recruit. And then all of a sudden, he's starting to jump up draft boards. And I think it's interesting that the New York Jets here are willing to take a flyer on Jalen Phillips on the back end of the first round. If there's anybody in the NFL that can get the most out of a defensive player besides Bill Belichick, I'm going to say that it's Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh can do absolutely anything he wants on the defensive side of the ball, and people will listen. Jalen Phillips is going to be unleashed when he gets into this Jets defense, so I definitely like the pick there. OWUSU-KORAMOAH, listen, if I know anything about the Pittsburgh Steelers, they know how to draft linebackers. And if they're willing to draft Jeremiah OWUSU-KORAMOAH, that means he is a future Pro Bowler and possible Hall of Famer. I mean, it's that simple. If there's a position that the Steelers know how to draft, it's linebacker. It seems like they do it constantly, and they have the best of the best. And then Trayvon Merrick, we have said this for eons at this point. It just seems too good to be true. They need a safety. Trayvon Merrick is the best safety in this draft. They have the pick where it makes the most sense. I think that overall this is just a win.
Yeah, I'm really only going to talk about two people here, starting with Jalen Phillips. To me, he's the best hybrid of defensive end and outside linebacker, and I think that's exactly what Robert Salah is going to look for in a guy he can groom into being his next superstar. So I think he is the best fit for them, and I think that's who they're going to go after. And then Trayvon Merrick, to me, he's the best bang for your buck at this point at 25. I was looking at who is available, and there just is nobody as good as he is. He is so far away from the number 2 at the safety position. You got to take this guy when you have the chance. And now that they have a second pick in the first round, this is the perfect opportunity to strike, and it's a position of need as well. So you're filling a bunch of holes, and I think this is going to work out for them. Moving on to 26, we have Jamin Davis to the Cleveland Browns, Zaven Collins to the Baltimore Ravens, Terrace Marshall Jr. to the New Orleans Saints, Kadarius Toney to the Green Bay Packers, and Najee Harris to the Buffalo Bills.
Starting off with 26, I like Jamin Davis to the Browns. I believe that they need a linebacker of sorts, whether it's an outside or inside linebacker. It doesn't matter. They need somebody in the middle of that defense that's going to be able to command the defense and really step up and make plays for them. Um, Jamin Davis or Zaven Collins really doesn't make a difference to me who they take. But then Zaven Collins goes the next pick to the Baltimore Ravens. Again, another team that knows how to pick linebackers like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Seems like every team in this division wanted to pick a linebacker except for the Cincinnati Bengals. But outside of them, listen, Zaven Collins is a great athlete. He's a great outside linebacker. And guess what? The Ravens lost 2 massive outside linebackers this year and have to replace it. So Zaven Collins makes the most sense. Terrace Marshall Jr. opposite Michael Thomas will be a nasty 1-2 combination for whoever the hell decides to throw the football for the New Orleans Saints this year. Whether it Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston, doesn't really matter. If you have Michael Thomas and Terrace Marshall Jr., look out. That is a nasty combination. Kadarius Toney finally becomes a weapon for Aaron Rodgers to be able to use opposite Devontae Adams. I love what he can bring to this team. He's a speedster that's going to take the top off the defense. He's going to allow Robert Tonyan to work the middle and then Devontae Adams to work the underneath. I love it a lot. And then Najee Harris going to the Buffalo Bills is extremely interesting to me, simply because they have brought in some other running backs this offseason, including Matt Breida. But Najee Harris is just one of those players where if he's available, especially at the back end of the first round, he's just too good to pass on. He is strong, he's fast, he can hurdle, he can do everything. And I believe he is a traditional 3-down running back that's going to be able to just grind yards for your team. Overall, Najee Harris fills a massive role for the Buffalo Bills, and he's going to be the security blanket that keeps Josh Allen and this offense upright.
Yeah, and starting with Jamin Davis, I think Jamin Davis to me is the best available Mike linebacker. To me, Zaven Collins is a stud and a better linebacker overall. But when you're talking about a guy who needs to command the defense, I think Jamin Davis did it a little bit more at Kentucky, and I think he's going to have the edge coming into the league. And they need somebody who's going to gel with them right away because they are contenders for sure. For Terrace Marshall Jr., I picked him for the New Orleans Saints over a guy like Kadarius Toney because look at Jameis Winston. He's probably going to be their starting quarterback next season, and he is a guy who likes big-bodied wide receivers. Look at Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Those are big guys, so they don't want a small guy like Kadarius Toney, Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore. They want a big 6'4", 210-pound Terrace Marshall Jr. who's going to light up the outside and be able to go and grab those 50-50 balls, which we know Jameis Winston loves to throw. So I think that's exactly the guy they need to go after. And then Najee Harris, yes, they got Matt Breida, they still have Singletary and Moss, but to me, those guys are just role players. They need a primary back, a guy who's going to command this backfield, and it's another weapon for Josh Allen and this offense. And I think when you look at this roster, there really aren't too many holes in. Why get a depth piece when you still have a pretty big hole at running back, one that has not been figured out for years now? So Najee Harris is the best of all options available, and they're going to go after a guy like that. And rounding out this list at 31, the Baltimore Ravens select Tevin Jenkins, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Jayson Oweh.
Pretty simple here. Tevin Jenkins fills a role at right tackle left by Orlando Brown Jr. He didn't want to play right tackle. They're going to find a guy who does. It's that simple. You trade him for the 31 pick. In that pick, you find the guy who wants it. And I think Tevin Jenkins fills a massive role for them. Jayson Oweh going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just shows that the rich keep on getting richer. Jayson Oweh is a speedster off the edge, running a sub 4.40. This guy is absolutely incredible, and what he can do off the edge, paired with Jason Pierre-Paul, paired with Shaq Barrett, and all of these linebackers that they have, it's going to be pretty scary to see him just thrown into the mix because they're going to be able to rotate edge rushers, and then look out because they may be repeating once again. My biggest surprise, though, for your mock draft overall, no Sam Cosmi. It just baffles me that you couldn't include Sam Cosmi once in your final mock draft after all the crap that you gave so many other mock drafts over the course of the last few months. It's pretty interesting to me.
Listen, this draft is not about me. It's about what I believe is going to happen. And unfortunately, I don't see Sam Cosby's name coming off the board in day one. So he'll have to wait for day two, but an early day two for Sam Cosby. Don't you worry. And for Tevin Jenkins, this is perfect fit. One of the best right tackles in college football. He's going to be perfect. He's not going to want to try to play left tackle in the NFL, so he'll fit perfectly in the system. And he's one of the strongest guys at tackle anyway, so he'll be perfect for them as well, helping them in run blocking situations. And then Jayson Oweh, JPP's on the last year of his contract, most likely going to retire after this year. So this is a guy who can learn from Shaquille Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul for a year and then take over as the full starter next season. I think it's perfect for a guy with the athletic abilities like him.
All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.